G'day, it's Shane Dowling here from kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now, over the last couple of days, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has found himself engulfed in another scandal. This time he's accused of lying by the French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, there's 2 points I want to make in this video. Firstly, that scandal is going to get a lot bigger than it already has. And secondly, that a number of the Australian media are running a protection racket trying to cover up for Scott Morrison. Now, firstly, let's have a listen to what President Emmanuel Macron actually said. We'll run the whole 2-minute video, and you can hear himself talk about his relationship with the Australian public, and he says that's very strong. But then he's asked right at the end of the video whether he thought Scott Morrison had lied, and he said, "I don't think, I know." Let's have a listen to it now.
AUKUS deal was very bad news for France, but not just for France, because I think it's a very bad news for credibility and of Australia, and a very bad news for the trust that great partners can have vis-a-vis Australia. So I had a very direct discussion with Prime Minister Morrison about this issue.
What did you say to Scott Morrison? What did you say?
Look, I think I never say never. First, because we have common values. I don't, and honestly, I was in your country in May 2018. I will never forget what I live and what I experienced. Your country was shoulder to shoulder with us during the wars. Yes. You had fighters with us when our freedom was at stake. We do have the same values. So I think we have to honor this common past and these common values. But I think you can have disagreements. I do respect sovereign choices. But you have to respect allies and partners, and it was not the case with this deal. And I think this is detrimental to the reputation of your country and your family.
What did you say to Scott Morrison when he said hello to you? What did you say to him?
It is now his decision to see how he will move. With the French deal negotiated by Malcolm Turnbull, Australia had definitely an option to produce in Australia, to have submarines, conventional submarines, and to get the submarines with a clear and a reliable period of time, and to be in a situation to monitor itself, the submarines. Now you have 18 months before a report. Good luck.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Can you trust Scott Morrison?
We discussed. I do respect.
Can you trust him, though?
I mean, we will see what you will deliver. I have a lot of respect for your country. I have a lot of respect and a lot of friendship for your people. I just say when we have respect, you have to be true and you have to behave in line and consistently with this value.
Do you think he lied to you?
I don't think. I know.
Thank you.
Now, Scott Morrison responded to that, as he usually does, with lies and leaking. He has a long history of doing that, leaking against people. But the problem is, and what most of the media haven't picked up yet, is not only did he leak text messages between himself and French President Emmanuel Macron, which does a lot of damage, not just in relation to that relationship, but obviously all other world leaders would be very scared about sending any text messages to Scott Morrison from now on. But he also leaked a 15-page report that was meant to be secret as well, between Australia and the United States, specifically President Joe Biden. So it undermines Joe Biden as well. So let's have a listen to what the 7:30 report said on Tuesday night.
I must say that I think the statements that were made questioning Australia's integrity and the slurs that have been placed on Australia, I'm not going to cop sledging at Australia.
In the time it took Scott Morrison to travel from Rome to a chilly Glasgow shipyard, quite a lot had happened. The French president had called him a liar, and then someone had leaked a text message the French president sent just 2 days before the contract was scrapped, asking Scott Morrison if he should expect good or bad news for our joint submarine ambitions.
Why did you decide to leak that text message?
Well, I'm not going to indulge your editorial on it.
A Prime Minister under pressure was biting back.
I understand that he's very personally upset and he's made some personal remarks. I don't intend to do the same.
The attempted damage control by selectively leaking private text messages is quite an extraordinary step for an Australian Prime Minister to take.
He can twist and turn and leak a text message here and leak a document there to his, stenographic friends in the media. But ultimately, the failure here was one of not being honest.
But something else had also happened between Rome and Glasgow. Someone at the most senior levels of the Australian government had also leaked a 15-page confidential US document about the AUKUS negotiations. The leak was designed to damage the public claim by the US President that he had not known the French had not been told in advance about the Australian decision to dump a $90 billion submarine contract. In other words, to defend the Prime Minister's reputation, or Australia's integrity, as Scott Morrison described it, someone in the government was prepared to also embarrass the United States President.
Now, I'm no fan of former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, but he's over there in Glasgow and England as well. And Australian media approached him for comment because he is heavily involved in the submarine contract. I've written a number of articles being very critical of him and his involvement. You can search on my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, and you'll find him with all the detail. But he's still entitled to have his opinion, and I don't disagree with his opinion on this matter. He certainly didn't hold back, so let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Well, it's quite clear that Emmanuel Macron is justified in complaining about Morrison's conduct. I mean, Scott Morrison elaborately deceived the French, and he doesn't pretend that he didn't. He said we didn't tell them, he wasn't open with them. He's been criticised by the US President for his conduct. He's embarrassed the United States, apparently he's misled the United States, and he's deceived France. It is a shameful episode. Really, it is just shameful, and Morrison should apologise. Look, if Morrison had wanted to act honestly, let's just imagine that for a minute, hold that thought. If he'd wanted to act honestly, he would have sat down with the French and said, OK, we want to move to naval nuclear propulsion. I discussed that with Macron years ago. It's obvious. I wrote about it in my book. Had an honest discussion. France, they could have transitioned to nuclear propulsion with France. It actually would have been safer because they don't use weapons-grade uranium. You would have had the Americans in the room because, the combat system is from America. You could have had an honest discussion between people who behaved in a trusting fashion. Wouldn't that be great? Isn't that the way leaders are meant to act? The idea that a nuclear reactor, right, with enough weapons-grade uranium to make many, many bombs can be treated like a power pack from Bunnings is incredible. It is just bullshit. Oh, he's lied to me on many occasions. There's quite a few examples in my book, but Scott has always had a reputation for telling lies. Look, you're all in the press gallery, right? You know that. But this issue has become so sharply defined that people will say, well, if Australia is prepared, to throw France under the bus, what would they do to us? Our trustworthiness is a national security asset. And those people in the right-wing media that say, former Prime Ministers should be mute, that's just trying to intimidate people to be silent. So I'm entitled to express my point of view on any matter I choose. It is a free country. Well, the only person that's damaging the office of Prime Minister's credibility at the moment is the incumbent.
Now, this is where the political propaganda comes in. On today's show on Channel 9, on Wednesday morning, 4th of November 2021, they had Matt Canavan on there and some other lady who I don't know. And it was just total and utter dribble. They decided to shoot the messenger. They focused on attacking Malcolm Turnbull, which achieves very little, and ignoring the clear and open and blatant lies of Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who has a long history of lying, who has a long history of leaking material against people. Brittany Higgins, alleged rape victim. Scott Morrison's office leaked against her, and he's done it to numerous other people too. So he's an absolute coward. And here we have Channel 9 attacking Malcolm Turnbull for daring to have an opinion. They got Matt Canavan on there, whose brother is a multi-million-dollar mining executive involved in coal.
Is just what Scott Morrison didn't want to wrap up the climate summit. The man he replaced, Malcolm Turnbull, turning up at Glasgow to cause, pretty much major mischief. And boy, did he deliver.
Scott has always had a reputation for telling lies. I mean, this is a shocking conduct, Scott Morrison, and he can bluster as much as he likes, but he's not fooling anyone. He's done us enormous... Tell you what Scott Morrison has done. He has sacrificed Australian honour, Australian security and Australian sovereignty.
Wow. Translation, he took my job and I'm clearly okay with it. Let's discuss with Queensland Senator Matt Canavan, who's in Rocky, and Editor-in-Chief of Body and Soul and Stella magazine, Sarah Lamarquand in Sydney. Matt, I mean, where do you even start? I have never heard anything like it.
Well, Ali, I thought Malcolm Turnbull went halfway around the world to save the planet, but apparently he's gone just to grind more axes. He's got an axe to grind. Yep, obviously 3 years on from losing his job, it still hurts, and he's trying to take it out here. I mean, it's such a shame. I mean, I had a really productive relationship with Malcolm as Prime Minister, but since all that has happened, he's just become a bit of a tosser, hasn't he? Like, he just constantly seems to gripe about these things, and it's a real shame because he's gone all this way over to Glasgow. You'd think he would focus on those issues, which are obviously very personally passionate to him, rather than go over there and rake over old coals that happened years ago in Australia.
Matt, did you just call our former Prime Minister a tosser?
Well, he's acting in that way, isn't he? Like, Ali, I mean, is there any other word to describe it? I mean, get over it. Like, it happened years ago. It was a decision of the party room that you yourself benefited from years before in getting rid of Tony Abbott. And so then to take this holier-than-thou stance that I'm the only one that's ever been deceived in politics, there's only one word for it, and it's a good Australian word. Mate, you're a bit of a tosser. Get over it.
I mean, Sarah, to see him side with the French like that, and clearly he would have known exactly what he was doing, he's still holding a whole lot of anger, isn't he?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, a clinical psychologist could probably fill your whole show this morning helping the former PM unpack that. I think Matt's made some really fair points there. I'm not necessarily going to endorse the word tosser. I'll let that speak for itself.
No doubt about Matt Canavan's total and utter bias. He's a propagandist for the coal industry, and here he is attacking Malcolm Turnbull and, in effect, defending Scott Morrison, which is his position is totally indefensible, especially when you factor in the fact that he's also leaked documents against the United States. So we've got a massive political crisis coming up, or international political crisis, as far as Australia's relationships with multiple different countries is concerned. And here we have Channel 9 running this puff piece attacking the messenger, trying to defend Scott Morrison. Absolutely scandalous. People in social media are starting to call Channel 9 Peter Costello News, because Peter Costello is the chairman of the company and he's a good friend of Scott Morrison, one of his closest political advisors as well. Now, if you visit my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, and do search submarines in the search box, or Malcolm Turnbull, Scott Morrison, you're going to find a number of other articles on the submarine contract. It was very dodgy from the start, and it's just getting dodgier by the day. Other than that, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you do visit my website, you can join up for the free email subscription, and every time when you write a new article, you'll get an email letting you know that there's one there to be read. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.